I'm so excited. Yes, it's Life Unscripted, and it's just a show where we're talking to interesting women who have kind of lived these lives and they've reached a place where they're not letting society define who they are or what success means for them. And so it's very cool to hear about, times in their life when they kind of did follow along with a script and realized that's not really cutting it. And so then they just decided to kind of drop all those expectations and lead their lives. And now they're like happy, actualized women in the world.
Hello, and welcome to Nelda Live. Today, I am here with Meredith Walker. Meredith has had such an exciting and varied career, from being the head of talent at Saturday Night Live and producing stories for Nick News on Nickelodeon, to co-founding Amy Poehler's Smart Girls. Today, we're going to get to know Meredith a little better and talk about her most recent project called Life Unscripted. We have a lot of interviews coming up, and I would love for you to like and subscribe. Now let's get started. Welcome, Meredith. I am so glad to have you here on Nelda Live. Thanks for coming.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here and talk with you.
Oh, it's good to have you. You know, we are all so fascinated by SNL. And so I'd like to hear about your time on Saturday Night Live.
Oh, gosh, that was such a fun time. It really was. I was there as the head of the talent department. And so what I was in charge of was bringing on the hosts and the musical guests. And it was a real challenge, I'll tell you, much more there. I mean, I know that a lot of people think, oh, I want to work in TV and have this and this job. And that's an exciting thing to aspire to. And I think, do what you want, but it's also a job with challenges and, interesting characters all around. But it was a really, really fun time and a lot of collaboration and just a lot of good times.
So you're getting the talent on. So what is that like? I mean, I'm trying to think about how fangirl I would be if I were in the beginning, especially, right? Getting the talent on. What was that like for you?
Well, that's an interesting question. It was, it's funny because when you're there, day after day with the cast and the writers, I think you just kind of get numb to celebrity in a way. And I don't mean it's like totally boring or anything, but you become this little insulated group. And so when hosts would come in, you'd kind of be like, oh, hi, okay, great, you're here for right now, but you'll leave and we're all still here, and the same kind of team. And so it was more like having a nice guest, in your life for a week.
That's neat. And I assume people that I've known that people consider celebrity status, they're people. and usually they act like people. I mean, there's very few that really have the airs, if you will, at least what I've found, and especially in those kinds of situations, right?
Yes, it was definitely an interesting situation because they're coming into this environment where we're all there every day, every week, every month together. And so they know they're kind of the guest. And it's intimidating. It's, all these like scruffy comedy writers and really sharp improvisers. And they know, at least the people who ended up having the most fun kind of embraced that and were just like, take me along for the ride. But it was really sweet when they would show that they were vulnerable and kind of nervous and like, I'm not sure about this. And those were the people who ended up on, just crying Saturday night because they didn't want to leave. They really wanted to stay around.
So it's also this challenging, right? The challenging atmosphere. I'm thinking about how weekly this whole thing changes and it moves from one week to the next completely. It starts all over again. So talk about the challenges of that.
Well, what's interesting about those challenges is that where my office was up with very near Lorne Michaels and the creative producers and leaders of the show, and so we were kind of up on these normal offices, but it's down on the stage. That's where all of the designers and the wardrobe and makeup and the set builders. That's where they were, and they're the ones who pull it off. Think about it, like they're having to make costumes and make wigs and sets that look exactly like a writer's dream in his imagination. And so they're the ones that are really churning out the stuff that takes the most effort and creativity.
How much energy did it drain? I mean, I'm trying to think of your hours. What in the world are the hours in something like that?
It's very draining because it's definitely not 9 to 5. You kind of get there and have your normal working hours where you're coordinating people to be on the show and kind of working out that stuff. But then you're there all night with them too, while you're rehearsing and writing and doing stuff like that. And it is, we used to always joke just because Sundays we would get to do our laundry and we all felt like it was our one chance to be normal or feel normal in a week. And we were just always drained, but it was such a good time that you kind of didn't realize it until, Sunday at 5 p.m. and you'd think, I don't know how I'm going to do it again, but then you do it again.
That's interesting too, because I can't even imagine what time bedtime was on Saturday nights when you think about the adrenaline of a live stage show keeps going long after the applause is over and the cameras go off, right?
Oh, for sure. And that's why a lot of people, like the performers, they could go all night because they were so ramped up. But my family and friends would make so much fun of me because I'm a real morning person. And so at night I was like, oh, I have to go to this party. And they'd be like, oh, was that tough? Are you going to make it?
But it is, because all of your energy I can imagine the level of energy you gave out through a week, get through that performance, and then, you really kind of want to crash at that point. But yeah, adrenaline's not your friend at that moment. So
no, not at all.
Well, I know it had its challenges. I cannot imagine. When did they write the scripts? I'm sorry, I'm just kind of curious about that. Was everything written on a Monday?
For the most part, they would kind of get started on Mondays. That's when the host comes in and they all kind of start getting to know each other and spend time together. And then Tuesday is the big writing day. And that goes through the night, Tuesday night. And I don't even know why, but it's just how it's done. It's one of those things. And so what would happen is that everybody would write and we'd all be there late at night. And then Wednesday you get there and all of the incredible workers and staff people have made packets of these sketches for everybody. And we all sit around a gigantic conference table and have a read through. And the stack is this high. And, by 4 p.m., it's kind of getting a little lower. And it's reading those through with and the feedback from that, and like what kind of laughs happen that determines what'll be on the show.
That's just incredible. I can't imagine doing all that kind of editing come Wednesday and then have a show going up on every Saturday. That's insane.
Oh my gosh. I know.
So then let's just talk about a little bit of a sad moment, because I know you had to handle everything week to week and everything changed very quickly, but there came this unbelievable event, and that was 9/11. How did Saturday Night Live get through that?
Well, when it happened, I think I forgot if we were actually on the air that week anyway, or if it was already a week that we weren't really going to be in production, but we were definitely right up against it. And I remember we all were just kind of like, what happens now? Like, why do we even make this show? Why are we here on Earth? I mean, we were all so just questioning our existence, and this, what were we doing with our lives and what's important? And it didn't feel like what we were doing was very important at the time. We were all watching all of the first responders and all of the people who were doing such incredibly moving work. And I think it was maybe a couple of weeks at the most where it was determined that it's morale and we're all still united and it's okay to laugh. And, let's kind of embrace the good parts. And so I think it was a bit of a challenge, to actually find somebody to come and host. It ended up being Reese Witherspoon. And because, just nobody wanted to be to seem insensitive to the timing and all of that stuff. But then it was, and this is why all these people are so talented, and it's why they win awards and have been around for this long. The decisions Lauren and the writers were making about how to do it, and how to kind of have a tribute and have some beauty and meaning before we just went right into really yucking it up and all of that. And so we invited a lot of people from the fire department and I forgot who else was there right this minute, but we had, it was a really kind of very moving honorific ceremony to get us started and to kind of get everybody with us.
It's interesting because it's the same thing right now during the time of COVID, right? You just have to keep laughing because you just need to, right? I mean, the show must go on in a way, but I mean, it is part of the, we have to be able to laughter in times of crisis too, right? And have some relief, so I think that's beautiful. So that was SNL. I've forgotten exactly how this transformation happened. So what has your passion and direction been since you left Saturday Night Live?
Well, gosh, that's a great question. I would say that it kind of started before that. It's weird, but as much as I loved Saturday Night Live and it matched so much of my personality in my life and like the dynamics I was seeking and used to and all this kind of stuff, it was the show that was a little bit like off the path seeming, because I had kind of been into broadcast journalism and documentaries and social justice and all this stuff. And that's what I did. And then I kind of went and did this. And I think helping people laugh was a version of that. And so after that is when I kind of picked back up on the importance of storytelling and just have like the responsibility in doing that well of helping people's stories get shared. Mm-hmm. And I think that's when I was able to really kind of put much more into it. And I think it's interesting because our sense of purpose kind of waxes and wanes. And as we get smarter about ourselves, our sense of purpose, we cultivate it, we develop it. And so I think through all of that, I was really fine tuning it. And then I realized, okay, the thing to do is to help women and girls and just have a place where they can see their stories and the stories of others.
So let's talk about that, because you do have a dear friend that you have done lots of collaborating with, and that's Amy Poehler. So tell us about that and how that relationship formed, and then how you got where you are with all of that.
Well, Amy and we met at Saturday Night Live. I had been there when for a little bit, and then she came on to be a cast member. And we were just fast friends and really inseparable. And we just talked through the years about our time when we were in what was considered, the adolescent years, and just how challenging it was and how weird it was to feel like you mattered, or what you said mattered, and what was fitting in and what was just being you, and all of these different things. And as we would talk about it, our other friends would be in the room and hear it and say, that happened to me. And we all agreed that a common denominator is what a challenging time that is for girls. And so Amy and I just started looking into the things that really make a difference. And it turns out that kind of having a place where you can hear stories and tell your story and just kind of be a part of a community really made a difference. And so we started that together. So we started Amy Poehler Smart Girls. And
so how long has it been now?
I think 12 years now.
No, you're not that old. Okay. 12. Isn't that crazy? Because I know, that it really is middle school, high school. It's just rough. It's rough for girls. It really is. Trying to figure out who you are, where you're headed, what you're good at, what you're not good at, what other people want you to be, what you really don't want. You want to be what you want to be. But it's just hard to define. I think about where I am now, and I think about those years, and I think, whew, what a difference. Are you anywhere where you thought you would be? I mean,
I think sometimes I kind of am, because I had a sense of the kind of person I wanted to be in the world. I had no idea how I would get there. I'm just so glad I made it though, because we always say this, for no amount of money would I go back to like 8th grade.
No.
Never.
No. Absolutely not. No, that was awful.
Thank God we didn't have, social media.
Yeah. Oh, I know, because look at all the. Oh, I know. Look, I have a couple, and we take phones away and we do all that kind of stuff because we're like, you need some time away from all those definers, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I'm glad that you guys saw it and made something to help, girls see, the importance of who they are as individuals, So the other day I just interviewed Kevin Kelly, and he said he calls it the only, that it's being the only, the thing that only you can do, right? So let's then talk about, because we're working on a new exciting project, Life Unscripted. Let's tell the audience about that. I love that.
I'm so excited. Yes, it's Life Unscripted, and it's just a show where we're talking to interesting women who have kind of lived these lives and they've reached a place where they're not letting society define who they are or what success means for them. And so it's very cool to hear about, times in their life when they kind of did follow along with a script and realized that's not really cutting it. And so then they just decided to kind of drop all those expectations and lead their lives. And now they're like happy, actualized women in the world. So it's really cool.
So Meredith, what inspired you to do this?
I'll tell you, the inspiration really did come from Smart Girls. Everything that we learned through the years there is that hearing the stories of others, sometimes it can be so morally uplifting, to hear the stories of like these grand people that are kind of iconic. But sometimes to younger women, and it turns out for everybody, that can be a little bit intimidating, or it just seems like that's kind of out of the league, right? And that hearing the stories of everyday women and everyday girls, you kind of can pay attention and see yourself doing that, or hear something that might resonate with you. You just kind of hear it on a different level. And so we just thought, let's have those interesting conversations for older women or just any women.
So who are you interviewing in this new show, and why have you chosen some of the people you're choosing?
Well, we're interviewing a lot of different women. And we're talking with, for instance, this really great person, Emily Ramshaw. She used to run the Texas Tribune, and she's recently launched her own platform that's a news mecca, kind of like just for women. And it was really interesting because she's got the credentials, she's got the street cred, she's got all of it. And it was Meghan Markle, I think a couple of months ago, asked her if she could interview her. She said, "Emily, may I interview you? I'd like to just find out about news and how being well informed is so helpful." And it was really interesting that she picked her. But she's just somebody that, again, just she kind of was just. She knew she liked journalism, but then she was like, oh, women need this. And so she kind of veered away and started doing it on her own. And we talked to a wonderful award-winning chef in Houston. Her name's Anita Jason Ghani. And she's just a really interesting person she was born in India and kind of did the thing of getting married and having kids. And then somewhere along the way, she was like, I really want to cook. I really do. And so she taught herself how to cook. And now she's, James Beard nominated. And that's not to say that the accomplishments and the achievements are what make these women interesting. It's what makes them interesting is that they looked at themselves, they looked at their lives and kind of wanted to see what mattered to them and then see what kind of women they wanted to be and then took action to make that happen. And so that's who we're having on.
So let's talk about that. How does one unscript their life, I guess, because how do you do that?
I think that the way that you unscript your life is, first of all, understanding the difference between what others' expectations are and what you really want. And something that there's actually a lot of like the research and studies on this. And it's kind of has to do with the growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. And I encourage everybody to Google that because it's really interesting. And Stanford actually did a study about how do you develop your passions? How do you cultivate your purpose? How do you do these things? And it really has to do with this idea of, if you think that you're allowed to be open to trying a lot of things, then you'll try a lot of things. But if you feel like this is what's acceptable, you'll kind of stay there. And so that's the thing, is to kind of let yourself be open to it. And you can start developing interests in a lot of ways.
You know, it's interesting because I tell people that life is a portfolio. But when I was doing prep and research for actually, just when I met Bob Walter, who I interviewed, and he is executive director of the Joseph Campbell Foundation. Joseph Campbell taught that you slay the dragon, right? And the dragon is that script, if you will, that other people have given you, right? So it's really interesting that this wisdom kind of just goes through time, right? And few find it, I think.
Yeah.
Don't you think few find it?
I do. And I think that's why platforms like yours are so important, because, you know, someone who hasn't heard this is going to now know about it. Or if they knew about it, they're going to go and find out more about it. And so I think that's what's cool, is it kind of introducing these concepts to people so that they can lead more meaningful lives.
I think it's really easy to get in line and just keep going down the line. I think the difficult part is imagining yourself in a different place, and then taking the leap, right? Because in a lot of ways, don't you think, when you look at your life and the portfolio of where you are, what did it take for you to jump off into different things?
Well, it's interesting. A bunch of us were talking about this the other day, actually. Sometimes it takes a flop, is when you finally say, oh, I didn't take myself off the carousel. I was pushed off of it, but now I'll pay attention and, you know, look at things. And, you know, that could be a breakup or losing a job, or, you know, it could be anything that makes you kind of say, okay, I can either look at my life and who I am and what's going on, or I can just kind of feel sorry for myself and not change. And so I think with a lot of people, and the women that we'll talk to on the show are people who, you know, either disappointed their parents or failed out of school or got divorced. And that's what really got them to look. And another interesting part of that is that, and this kind of goes with the other thing too, about when we're younger and during adolescence, it's such a hard time. And what we're supposed to kind of be doing is figuring out our values along the way. And that's what helps us really do all of this, is kind of having this foundation about values and what resonates with us. But what's interesting is so many people kind of pick those up when they're young, and then just because it feels familiar and good and too scary to question, a lot of women don't. A lot of adults don't, but a lot of women don't. And once they do, and they really check in with themselves and what their real beliefs and core values are, it's less scary to kind of take those chances and change things up a little bit.
As you're looking forward to different people that you're going to interview, how do you find those people who've taken the leap?
Well, right now, it's people that I kind of already knew about. You know, I already knew or have collaborated with in some way, so I knew that they had done that. Also word of mouth, because when I'll mention it to people, they'll say, oh, you got to talk to my friend so-and-so because she's done that. And so that's kind of the way people are found, because it's not something that a lot of people talk about a lot. You know, they don't say, oh, let me tell you about the time I fell flat on my face and then started over. But once you kind of start talking about it, people really open up.
If you don't lose it all, it's part of the hero's journey, right?
Right.
You lose it all. And then you have to go, okay, now what am I going to do? So, well, I am so excited. What are you looking forward to most about getting this out there for people?
Besides interviewing you for it?
Oh, I love that.
That's happening. So that's the first thing I'm looking forward to. After that, I think it'll really spark some great conversations with women friends. You know, they'll talk about these things, and kind of sometimes it just takes that one person talking about the thing that people think people don't talk about, and then they'll think it's okay to talk about, and they'll think it's okay to kind of like question something or, just re-examine something. And so I'm just really excited to have good conversations out there.
Oh, I just can't wait, Meredith. It's going to be so amazing. So audience, stay tuned. Nelda TV will kind of let you know when Meredith is getting all of this out there. And I'm so looking forward to it. I just want to say thank you. I'm grateful that you have the vision for something like that. And I'm grateful that you see the need for women to have collaborators, but people to sort of mentor and walk with maybe along this path. I appreciate that so much.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you for having us. It's because that this is all happening. And that makes such a difference. When you have people that care enough to let these ideas become reality, that's a really beautiful thing too. So thank you.
Well, it's going to be exciting to see. Where can people find you? Tell us where all we can find Meredith.
Oh, besides just at HEB, buying groceries some days. I think, please come find me on Instagram. That's where I let you have a little glimpse of things. So I'm at Puzzles Mom on Instagram. And
No, say that again. You're on what?
I'm at Puzzles Mom.
Okay.
I used to have a dog named Puzzle.
Oh,
I know. He started out as Amy's dog, and then when she had kids, he came to live with me, and so that's when I came up with all my names. So
I love it.
Puzzles Mom. Very professional.
We're very we adopt lots of puppies. We have 3, so we have rescue pups. Yes, love them. So
love them. That's what we have 2 now. They look like Lady and the Tramp, but they're both just like rescues from weird lives.
And I don't hear them, so they're being good.
They are. They're in another room, probably eating things.
Well, thank you so much, Meredith. I appreciate it. And I know we're going to be seeing you again, so I can't wait.
Me
and
too.
Looking forward to it. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.
Look, we have lots of great interviews on Nelda Live, so hit like and subscribe. There's much more to come.